Hi, this is Rose with Assisted Living Made Simple, and I'm here with my friend Brian. And Brian is an Alzheimer's patient. And Brian and I have done, this is our 6th video that we've done about Brian's journey. And for those of you who haven't seen them, you can go right on our website or on YouTube. And it is under Assisted Living Made Simple and Brian. And you can find it starting with 1 about Brian's journey. Brian, how are you?
Pretty good, Rose.
So this has been quite the journey for you. Give a kind of recap of how many years?
Knee surgery was 6 years ago.
Yes.
And it started out being diagnosed as post-anesthetic cognitive disorder, which I knew from my own research and from what the doctor said, that can take as much as 2 years or as long as 2 years to recover from that. So for 2 years I did improve, but it never really went away completely. And I had been going back to the doctor throughout that entire 2-year period. And I was doing well on the cognitive testing. But he said, I really think that since you have improved, but you still have cognitive issues, you probably should continue to keep coming.
Right.
And I did. And, I would say that I was pretty steady for quite a while. I don't know as I could really put a time frame into it. But certainly I would say that
we'll just go on. If I have to splice them, I can.
That is just completely different, and I don't know, but I assume that it's a different part of the brain that's being affected.
So you have your routine stuff every day that you do, and then you think, did I do that?
Oh yeah. I said before, and I've prepared notes, which I've never done before. The scope of it and the intensity of it and the frequency of it has increased dramatically. I go within every hour of the day, if I'm involved in doing things, not if I'm sitting and reading, obviously.
Right.
I'm saying I'm reading, but if I'm active and I'm engaged in activities, every single hour of the day I can't remember things.
Comprehension with reading, still have it?
Still have it, but I forget what I read. And it also has to do with complexity. If I'm reading a book and there's a lot of characters, I think some books everybody has a problem with because they're so involved. But even now, it takes me much longer to get involved in a book and to sort all of it out.
Who the people are.
Yeah, who the people are, and a character that was on page 60 that doesn't reappear until page 157. It's like, whoa, who's this guy?
Where did they come from? Yeah.
But in terms of daily activities, the most frustrating thing, and it's funny, and you gotta laugh because Linda and I always say, if you don't laugh, you're gonna cry. But keys and glasses drive me crazy.
So do you have alarms on your keys and stuff?
We do. Yeah, well, we do, because I lost my keys to the Subaru, and good old Subaru, they charge you $350 to get yourself a new fob.
Yeah.
And that's the only manufacturer that does that, which really pisses me off. But I'm constantly losing my keys, but we can find them. But glasses, reading glasses. I've got 7 pairs of reading glasses that I have stationed all over the house where I use them, and I won't be able to find a pair of glasses.
Absolutely.
And that's just, you can laugh at it because I'm talking about it.
But you say that, and I was with a lady, though, and her glasses were sitting right there in plain sight. And she says, Rose, I have looked through this house, one thing and the other. And I'm like, well, they're right here. She literally didn't see them. And it's not that she forgot or she didn't see them.
Well, I have related stories like that, and it's getting a lot more intense now. And you know, I'm concerned about it now because if you don't know where your glasses are, that's one thing. But if I'm reading and um, the word heart comes up, the organ heart,
Mm-hmm.
I'll read through it and my mind will remember brain.
Huh? It plays a trick on you and switches
Yeah.
it. You know it's an organ,
Yeah.
but yeah.
And there's all sorts of examples of that happening to me now. And, you know, something like that on its surface is enough. But the patient thinks below the surface.
Right.
And you say, wow, my humanity is slipping away.
Mm.
You know,
And
like,
you said that during the meeting. You were listening to everybody talk about their loved ones, and you kept relating to what they were saying to yourself.
Yeah.
And you made a comment at the end of the meeting that the patient doesn't think like the caregiver.
Exactly.
That
Very
you're
much so.
very much think in a whole different format.
Well, I thought it was important to make that point because the woman who was speaking was, I mean, she was very pleasant and she was very, very sincere. I'm in no way being critical, but she said, you know, you have to always kind of, you know, look at the positive and you know, and the patient doesn't do that, not because they're mean and nasty, but they're confronting a different reality.
Mm-hmm.
That is not my reality anymore. I have to come to grips every single day, many, many times now with the intensity of what's going on, with the fact that I am losing my ability to think and use my brain, which is what makes me into a human being.
A little piece of yourself.
And makes me myself. And it doesn't come back. It only gets worse. And you know, I've always spoken about adaptive behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
That's the other thing. Adaptive behaviors don't work anymore now. You know, I just don't. And you know, I tried lists,
Mm-hmm.
but you know, it gets to the point where you have 6 lists every day
Yeah.
for different facets of
To
your
trigger
life.
a memory.
You know, if I go shopping to my store, Lowe's, right? Forget it. I'll never remember what I'm going for. I won't even remember if I'm going for one thing. I'll get there and I'll say, "Jeepers, weepers."
So much it's overwhelming.
What?
Mhm.
No, what am I doing here? I just don't remember. So even and then even making a list to go, which you know many people when you go shopping you make a list.
Mm-hmm.
It's difficult to remember what to put on your list.
Hmm.
And it's very, very frustrating then when it happens on a regular basis. It happens to everybody, I guess. But, you know, you get home and you say, damn it.
Didn't get that.
Wasn't on the list. You
Right.
know? And that's becomes your life. That becomes the norm. And
The frustration level's high.
yeah, the frustration level. You know, one of the things that I think is really significant at this stage is I have reasoned through, and it has taken many, many days of thought, because the instinct is, well, all right, it's not giving up, but I'm just not going to do that anymore because it's difficult. I'm going to withdraw from it. And, you know, that's the natural thing to do because life has become very confusing and very frustrating.
So that's a defense.
It's a comfort level.
Mm-hmm.
It's a place I can go to where I don't have to deal with the frustration and the constant awareness of
Not knowing.
not knowing, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I've chosen so far not to do that.
But that's a conscious thought that you make not to do that.
I know that it will ultimately come. I know that I ultimately will not have a choice, you know. But I'm still going to, you know, go on as long as I possibly can.
Push.
And But it's been a very difficult, it's been a very difficult 4 or 5 months. Because one of the things that happened after I left, I went to Dr. Wozbecki as a new patient, and I had, I'll relate this for this, but I've already told you, had this wonderful session of cognitive testing. The cognitive tests that I've always had were the same 8 questions every time I went. And this is an aside, I said to the doctor one time, I said, "Doctor, you can scan this test so easily because I know all the questions and I just go through them in advance and all that sort of stuff." And he said to me, "Well, yeah, but we're interested in people who really can't even do that,
Right.
Well, that's me now.
That's you now.
What county am I in? What day is it? What are we doing? What are we having for lunch? What day of the week is it?" All of those things have been very severe. I would say right now, in some respects, the severity of the symptoms has diminished, but they're all still there. I don't have instantaneous recall of what day of the week it is, or what am I doing today if I have 2 or 3 different things to do during the course of the day. I can't. And for instance, we're going to see Rose. What time are we going to see Rose? Now I've been through going to see Rose, and I know what time we're going to see Rose. But and then other things like Linda's doing much more of the driving now. And I was thinking today, well, but it's pretty easy to get down to Rose. Maybe I'll drive. It's all back roads. And I thought to myself, well, yeah, okay. So how do we get to Rose? No more.
No more.
One there.
But that's a beautiful thing that you realize that.
Yeah.
Because initially you said you were kind of spacing out on billboards and stuff like that, and that's when you had an aha moment that was like, whoa, this isn't cool.
That was the initial symptoms with the anesthetic cognitive disorder. I have never gone back to that. I'm nowhere near that.
Thank God.
Because I was a fruitcake. Life was over.
And you've said this numerous times, and everybody in the world that's in the medical field would deny it, but this was anesthesia induced. Not that it wouldn't have happened because you had a predisposition, but it triggered the symptoms to come on.
The question there is, if I hadn't had the anesthesia, would my onset have been a year or 2 or 3 later? Remember, I look back now on my life and I realize that my symptoms when I was still working really, really started. Not that they impacted my work at all, but at the age of 56. So it started then, and I would say that if people, I think everybody at some point in their life should be tested for Alzheimer's.
Oh, I don't disagree. Because
Disagree?
I said I don't disagree.
Oh, okay.
I think that there's a predisposition with a lot of people. I talk very frequently with the people at PMR that are doing the research on it. It just seems like I think we should all be scanned for everything our whole life, actually, because I had a friend who lost 2 wives of cancer, and he was like, I don't know why they don't scan people. Yeah. Because it would have been diagnosed earlier. So there's so much we could be doing medically for preventative that we don't do. We're doing reactionary, and it's wrong.
And I read or heard, I think I read someplace a while ago that when the baby boom generation peaks, whatever year that is, 20, 40, whatever, if things go on the way it is now, oh God willing, something will break. But we will be spending 1/4 of the gross national product on the care of Alzheimer's
I'm
patients.
telling you, I read about it all the time.
Wow.
And I know there's studies out there. I know people are trying to prevent it, but first of all, what's causing it? And how can we start earlier at prevention? People are living longer. We know that's a fact. So does that have a lot to do with it? I don't know. But we need to be better at this. We need to be better at healthcare as a whole, but we need to be better at this.
Yeah. Yeah, the other thing that I want to mention, I'm just looking, I did pretty good.
You did pretty good.
I got most of it. The other thing that happened that was significant. I started to tell you this was that I went to see Dr. Worsbecky and I had different cognitive testing. He was marvelous. I mean, you sit in front of a computer for like an hour or more, and you play all of these games that are all cognitive testing games, you know, and then it's printed out, you know, and the doctor gets it and he evaluates it. And I was gone by then, and he called and he said, well, your results are that you definitely show, you know, Alzheimer's, but he said also ADD, attention deficit disorder. Which I can't wait to see him because I have all sorts of questions about that. I mean,
Right.
I thought ADD was something that you were kind of like born with, you know. You didn't just. I guess I had it, but maybe I just adapted to it.
Mm-hmm.
But he even asked me, "Did you ever have this problem? You ever have that problem?" I said, "No, I never had any problems with it at all." But remember, I always did say that one of the things that I observed about myself in Alzheimer's was that I thought that part of my Alzheimer's problem was that I wasn't focused enough for what happened to get into my head. Well, that's the ADD. That's the attention deficit disorder.
Exactly.
You know,
So then, did he put you on meds for that?
I'm on Ritalin 5 milligrams.
And how do you feel like it's helping you, or at the time? Because it's been months.
Well, I would say that it probably stabilized it. But I think that 5 milligrams is a pretty low dosage, so I'm going to ask him whether or not he thinks that more would be helpful or whatever. And then also the interplay of ADD and you know, my second big question is what's with this big huge drop that I'm experiencing?
Right.
at
What's
this
happening
point,
now?
You know, yeah. So the impact, I think, on the small scale, you know, on the day-to-day scale, is that it's more difficult, and Linda and I have to talk more, you know, because my previous desire to talk to Linda was, hey Lynn, you don't understand what's going on here, and you got to understand what's
Adapt,
going on here,
right.
right? Now I realize that that I'm losing it, you know, and she's just going to have to start
Taking control of things.
yeah.
Yeah, which is
Yeah.
hard for you to give up. Being the first.
Taking control of things, and also taking control of having insight into, well, where is Brian? Because I'm not going to be able to communicate it anymore. So that's very difficult. And then you know, I spent a lot of time thinking about things, Rose, in this last period of time. And one of the things that I came up with was, and I'm going to say this because I think it's. You know, it's sad, but it's real. Alzheimer's, I've always said it's cruel and it's very relentless. You know what it is, though, too? You die twice from Alzheimer's. You die twice. And once is just slow, but yet ever accelerating, ever broadening, passing, you know. And then eventually you go into, you know, total care.
Right.
And then you die organically, you know. But I mean, that's difficult. That's going to be difficult on the loved ones because he's gone like everybody else has died.
But he's been gone for a long
But
time.
for the patient, it's like, you know, it truly is a blessing. Right?
Yeah.
It truly is a blessing because it doesn't.
Well, that's the biggest thing that we see in the group when you say, but you've lost them a long time ago.
Yeah.
And that is something that, you know, and the one girl in our group, you heard her say, well, if he would just go, I would know he's gone because I've already lost him.
Right.
And it's a whole different
Sure.
thing that it's relentless
To
and sad.
to hear those women say, I think there were two of them who said, he doesn't know that I'm his wife.
Yeah,
You know, after 50 years of marriage, that must be brutal.
horrible.
That must be brutal.
Yeah, or walking into an assisted living and he's holding some woman's hand. Linda doesn't never want to talk to us. But
Maybe
Linda,
someday.
what I see you do now is you take care of Linda.
Yes,
You're doing things for yourself,
definitely.
which I know that Brian supports you fully with because
And
you
our
need it.
children.
Your children are the ticket because they really have stepped up.
Our children are a blessing. I mean, I got to tell you, we had them all together for what was the holiday we were all together for?
Our 50th anniversary.
Oh, 50th wedding anniversary, yeah.
That's a holiday in
Yeah,
itself.
it sure is. And but anyway, they announced to us that we were going to have a family meeting, which is the first time that the children have announced a family meeting. It's always been,
But
you know,
that
when you
stands-
come, there's something we got to talk about, you know, and it was great because, you know, Grace was there. It would have been really nice if my sister Mary was there.
She was there.
That's right, Mary was
Yeah,
there.
was
Yeah.
there.
So it would have been nice if Tony had been there, but of course, you know, because everybody that is really meaningful to me. I mean, many other people were meaningful to me, but the hardcore family.
But you
folks.
see what that meant to your whole family? The understanding?
Yeah.
And too often families don't do that. Sit down and have the conversation. Have the talk. Because we don't know if we'll be able to have that talk at another time. So
Sure.
that's the key.
Yeah.
Brian, thank you today. I always thank you, Brian, for being. I'm going to have to splice this together because phone calls kept coming
I
in.
hope that I'm able to do another one at some point.